Hi, everyone. Dr. Tim and Hillary for another Dr. Tim's Aquatics podcast. How you doing this morning, Hillary?
Doing good, doing good. How are you? You're about to start traveling again.
Yes, we are all traveling. We've got lots of things coming up. But yep, all good.
All right.
And we're getting, if you're listening and get some progression, the ASF salt is starting to hit the shores
Yes.
at distributors. The first two containers are at the docks being unloaded as we speak. So should start showing up in your stores here shortly if you are on the East Coast.
Sweet. I know I already saw it when we were in Orlando. Worldwide Corals definitely has it in stock. So that's exciting.
Yep. Worldwide Corals was the first ones to get it. We shipped them some here from our California address. So we are going to start covering the United States with this new salt. It's really nice stuff. So let's get moving. Questions. I'm assuming they're on starting up and cycling and all that.
Yes, there's a lot of cycling questions. I feel like there's always a lot of cycling questions. So we'll try and help you guys out. Question number 1. I'm doing a fishless cycle on a new saltwater tank and pull a bunch of media from an existing system. I added your product and your ammonia to the system. Will I see nitrite or just ammonia drop? Does the seasoned media instantly pull the ammonia out? I used existing media, figuring it would help to speed the process of the cycle. Thanks in advance.
Well, truthfully, can't answer the question. Existing media it might not. There's just no way of knowing. Nitrifying bacteria do live on substrate surfaces, but do all surfaces, every surface in your aquarium, does it have nitrifying bacteria? I don't know the answer to that, really. And there might be some there. Would there be sufficient for the ammonia that we're dosing? Only if the existing aquarium had a lot of fish in it. So basically, I really can't answer the question, Hillary. Sorry.
Oh, man. Now you got me rethinking how I do start tanks. Like I always add one and only, but I usually have some like rock and media from an existing tank that I moved to the new tank. Now I'm guessing myself.
Well, I remember years ago when I was trying to find out. This was my PhD dissertation was supposed to be about finding where do the nitrifying bacteria live. Do they prefer the filter that we give them? Do they prefer the gravel? Where? That's a basic ecological question. And one way of finding out was you have established aquariums and you start removing things. And if you remove the thing that the majority of the nitrifying bacteria grow on, you would expect to see an ammonia and or nitrite spike. Sounds logical.
Yeah.
And I remember we had these tanks set up in the Marine Land Lab and, with fish, and started removing things because we were doing, we usually did at least minimum 3. We tried to do 5 replicates, if anything we did. And we started, one thing at a time from each aquarium, removed the filter pad, no ammonia spike. Then, I can't remember, we started removing like half the gravel, no filter spike. We really couldn't get a bump in the ammonia. And I don't have an answer for that, what was causing it. So if your tank has ever had diseases, I'm not, there's pluses and minuses to using established media. If your tank has a history of diseases, I would advise against it. But just thinking that you're adding some media from existing tank and you're going to have sufficient nitrifying bacteria is probably incorrect thinking.
All right, that's good to know. I learn something every time we talk. Okay, let's move on to question number 2. Can I dose EcoBalance and Waste Away in my ATO water? I would not turn off the skimmer or the UV. Or is it better to add the products weekly with the skimmer and UV off for 24 hours? Thanks.
No, it's fine. In fact, we have a recipe card. You can find it on our website called Color Up. And the idea is to use EcoBalance bacteria, but you can do it with Waste Away. There's no reason to add really both together, make a concoction. But you add the bacteria to your ATO water. And for those that don't know, I just not assume ATO, automatic top off. That's what that stands for. And you add a little first defense. Now, what you want to do is aerate that water, because the bacteria are going to start growing on that first defense that you're adding, multiplying, and you want to keep it well stirred and well oxygenated. And then you can use your ATO water to be dosing your bacteria, which are now kind of gut loaded with the vitamins from first defense. And what's happening then is, as you're introducing this bacteria laden water to your aquarium, your corals, which filter feed 24/7, are going to be ingesting these the bacteria, which have the vitamins, and your corals will start looking a lot better. Corals get brown and kind of fade because they're not getting the nutrition they need. They filter feed 24/7. The ocean is full of bacteria. And what do we as hobbyists do? We work real hard to remove all the bacteria from the water. I've said it a lot. We make the water too clean, and that is the root of many, many problems that everyone sees, is making the water too clean unintentionally by over skimming, roller filters. All these things that we have are making the water too clean for your system. And that's why you get algae and hair algae and dinos and cynos, oh my, and things like that. So
Yes.
definitely you can put the bacteria in your ATO water and dose. That's the whole idea behind the Waste Away gels. So if you don't have an automatic top off and you want to do the same thing, we have our Dr. Tim's Waste Away time release gels that are a gel in a very convenient cartridge with a suction cup you can put anywhere in the system where there's low flow. You don't want high flow going against the cartridge. And it will time release bacteria 24 hours a day for up to 30 days, will color change when it's done, but you're constantly adding bacteria, which will consume the nutrients and fight off the algae and the cyno and the dino. And you don't really have to do anything but add them, because most people will not take the doctor's advice and stop over skimming.
No. So I've got a question with your answer. A lot of times we tell people not to add more than one product at a time. Why is it okay in this situation?
We tell people not to add 2 bacterial products at the same time. And we tell people don't add first defense to the tank when you've just dosed Waste Away or EcoBalance. But in this situation, it's okay because the bacteria are in the automatic top-off reservoir, water reservoir, and you're adding first defense, and I said add aeration, because as those bacteria in the reservoir are consuming the first defense and multiplying, they're going to be consuming oxygen. But all that's happening outside of the aquarium. If you pour in a bunch of first defense, a bunch of the Waste Away or EcoBalance bacteria into your aquarium, and then you start adding the first defense in your aquarium, this same process is going to happen, except that now the oxygen is being taken from the aquarium water rather than the ATO water. Does that answer your question, Hillary?
It does. Just wanted to make sure, because I could almost hear somebody asking, I thought we're not supposed to do 2 at once. Situations where it's okay would be this.
So don't do that. And also, we're talking about the ATO reservoir, a water reservoir. When the clear up, the color up recipe, that is in a separate reservoir, not in your aquarium. Do not add a bunch of waste away or ecobalance bacteria together, both of those, because you're overdosing bacteria, but don't add one or the other and then a bunch of first defense, because you're risking getting a bacterial bloom. Bacterial bloom is a growth, a multiplying of the bacteria, basically out of control. And these bacteria, as they're multiplying, consume oxygen, and you can basically kill everything in your tank. Another reason why we say when you first start using waste away or ecobalance, you start with a very small amount, because we don't know how how concentrated the organics. What are your organic levels? What are your nitrate levels? What are your phosphate levels? Chances are they're high, which is why you're adding one of these bacterial products to fix a problem. And if you've got high nutrient levels, the bacteria can just grow and grow and grow. So that's why we say when you first start with these products, because they're real bacteria, which sounds strange, but there are competitors out there that are selling you water. We're selling you bacteria. They can just grow out of control. So you have to be careful. Slow, and patient.
Now, I have a question. It was one of my last questions, but it kind of
It's the
piggybacks
Hillary
on
question session today.
It is. I like this. I get to get all my questions answered. So somebody wrote in and asked, are your products third-party tested?
No. Who would be the third party?
I have no idea.
See,
This isn't my question.
That is okay. that is always been an issue. Is there really isn't a third party, a consumer, report, a consumer safety council, something like that, to test these products. There are, I take for food, there is. Some states have the state chemist, and they will test your food to make sure that you're what you say is the protein level and the fat level and the stuff like that. But there's really no one out there that tests aquarium products.
And I feel like there's no, could be wrong, but there's no guidelines and regulations for aquarium stuff.
Well, they're not for liquids. For electronics, things you plug in, you've got ETL, testing laboratories, so they meet safety requirements. It's not testing, are they putting out the right wavelength, the right lumens, and stuff like that. It's all safety. There's no company out there, no third party out there that's doing anything for verifying claims or stuff like that.
Okay. Question number 4. Hello, I completed a treatment of refresh and waste away and purchased waste away gels for maintenance. I placed them in a low flow area of my sump as directed. Shortly after, I noticed a few cylindrical bits of the gel in my display tank and watched as my Foxface gobbled them up. Should I be concerned? For now, I've removed them and would like to know if you think placing them in a fine mesh filter bag would be okay.
Depends on the fine mesh. I don't know that it needs to be super fine. A 300, 500, 600 micron opening, 1,000 micron opening mesh bag would be fine. You can place it in that. The gels are non-toxic. The gel material's non-toxic. So if a fish eats it, it's small enough, it shouldn't be a problem. So you don't really have to go that route. There's nothing toxic about the waste away gels. Even the material is non-toxic.
I think it's interesting. We talked about the corals utilizing the gel, but I've not heard of fish eating it before. So that's a new one.
We'll assume that it was the gel. I haven't seen that before, but what we do get questions about this, is you'll get this big cloudy, mess. Looks like a fungus or just something growing on the outside of the gel cartridge. That's the bacterial biomass. And that is really nutritious. That you can kind of wipe off into the aquarium if you want. And when it lands on corals, it'll get ingested, or anemones. There's a ton of nutrition in that. Or if that's just not something you want, you can slowly remove the gel take it over to the sink, wipe it down with a, paper towel, and then put the gel back in.
Okay. We're on question number 5. I wish I'd seen your videos about cycling sooner. My tank is about 5 months old. I keep a mixed tank, although my SPS don't color up well, regardless of stable parameters. It's also a bare bottom tank, which I know is not great for bacteria, but I have a decent amount of media in the tank. I also dose trace and elements and aminos. Any suggestions on how I can improve the color of my SPS? I feel like it could be related to a bacterial imbalance. Will adding one and only be obsolete at this stage?
Let's start with the end. Adding one and only, will it be obsolete? Well, if you take your ammonia nitrite test and measure ammonia nitrite, and if they're immeasurable, then adding one and only will not be obsolete. So if you have ammonia or nitrite, you want to add one and only. As to your corals, well, like the color up recipe, turn off that skimmer 5 or 6 hours at night, stop over filtering the water, and start dosing bacteria that are, quote, gut loaded. Bacteria don't have guts. That's why you can't see me, but I'm doing the air quotes there. There's just not the right nutrition for the corals, which is bacteria in the water. So you can add some, and you can then look at what your filtration system is, and are the things you can cut back on. And one of the simplest is putting that skimmer on a timer and turn it off at night for 5 or 6 hours.
Okay. Question number 6. 2 months ago, I added a 150-gallon frag tank to my 150-gallon display. My nutrients are very low, and now the whole frag tank, just the frag tank, is growing dinos. I used EcoBalance last week and Brightwell Clean on separate days. My display system is 4 years old. What method do you recommend? I'm using a gel in my sump, only one. My other question is, if waste away lowers the nitrates and phosphates, and I have issues with low nutrients, why would I add bacteria to make it even lower?
So more than likely, though we don't have the data, the reason the dinos are growing only on the frag tank is right now the frag tank is probably shallower than the display tank. And so the light's penetrating deeper, and dinoflagellates are photosynthetic. So you're promoting them through the high light through the shallow frag tank. I don't know what Brightwell Clean is, so I can't comment on that. The long-term fix is to get your nutrient levels up. And why would you use, the waste away, which remove nutrients, when you're trying to get them up? Well, that's kind of the quandary. But if you don't add some bacteria to the water, you're not going to be adding any competitors that can outcompete the dinos. So what you need to do, and it's not a 2-day, 4-day, 6-day fix, it's a long-term fix, is you need to work on getting your nutrient levels up while at the same time having a little bit of bacteria in the water that can degrade organics and outcompete the dinoflagellates. And that's why doing a blackout in our recipe card, when we talk about fighting dinos, we have a blackout period because the dinos being photosynthetic, if you black the tank out for 2 or 3 days, that will really stress the dinos. And then you can add the waste away bacteria, which will degrade the organic materials. And the dinos are dying. That's an organic substance. The bacteria will degrade that. And what do the bacteria produce? They're degrading that organic material into ammonia, which your nitrifying bacteria convert into nitrate. And they're also degrading and freeing the organic material and releasing phosphates. So by doing that, that's a natural way to get your nutrient levels up. So you don't want to overdose the bacteria, but you definitely need to be adding bacteria while you're adding nutrients to get the whole system. It's kind of a holistic thing. Not only do you need your nitrates and phosphate levels up, you need your organic levels down, and you need your bacteria in the water. That population has to go up. So it is a little complex. It's a multi-web thing that you're trying to accomplish here, but that's the best long-term fix for any of the aquariums that have this, and it's all got to do with generally over skimming and low nutrients are the cause. There's plenty of different reasons why you might have low nutrients.
Okay. Question number 7. Hello, Dr. Tim. I am on day 6 of successfully treating the dinoflagellates in my system with refresh and waste away. I was wondering if I can dose EcoBalance during the treatment, or should I dose it after the 9 days of the waste away treatment? Thanks for your help. My tank is looking amazing after the first few days of your treatment.
Oh, thank you very much for the nice words. And I would wait. Don't get, you've got the tank, it's going well, but just resist that urge of trying to, add more diversity and stuff like that. Finish the treatment, then start putting in the EcoBalance. And going forward, what we recommend, how often should you add the bacteria? And we get the people, you're just trying to sell us more bacteria. Well, I'm telling you why you need to add it, because you're over skimming and keeping the system too clean. So do you need to add the waste away weekly, monthly? That depends on one, how much you're feeding. If your tank, you've got a lot of fish and you're feeding a lot, it is not uncommon to be having to add the waste away weekly or get the gel. That's the whole idea, is the gel is very convenient. And if you're adding that weekly, then every, even if you're adding it every couple of weeks, but every other, maybe third time that you would add waste away, substitute the EcoBalance in there instead of the waste away. Don't double up. As I said earlier, don't add the waste away and the EcoBalance together on the same day. You risk getting too much bacteria in the system and getting a bacteria bloom. So,
okay. Good answer. We are on question number 8. I added your ammonium chloride to my tank, and there is no ammonia showing on my API master test kit. And when tested directly without dilution, it shows clear with no ammonia detected. Can you please help offer guidance?
What's happening here is that our ammonia drop are at a concentration of nearly 50 milligrams per mil. And that means that each one of those drops has 2.5 milligrams of ammonia per drop. So when you add that to 5 mils, you're adding that concentration, adding 1 drop of our ammonia to 5 mils gives you a concentration of 500 milligrams per liter ammonia. That is way, way outside what that test kit can measure, meaning that there is so much ammonia in the sample that the test is not adding enough reagents to do the color change. I mean, it's there. You want more reagent than there is what you're trying to measure. In this situation, there's a lot more of what you're trying to measure than there is reagent that you're adding. So it can't produce the color change because there's still a ton of ammonia left that isn't bound to the reagent to get the color change that you're looking for. So basically, maybe easier said, every one of these tests has a top range. It can only measure the ammonia or the nitrite or the nitrate up to a certain level. And you have greatly exceeded what that upper level is. So you get a false negative. You think there's no ammonia maybe in there, but there's tons of ammonia in there. It's just so much that your test kit can't measure it.
All right. Move on. Question number 9. I followed your instructions exactly, read through your articles, and watched your video on the subject. I set up a 55-gallon tank with a filter running and a correct water temperature and parameters as they should be. I added your ammonium chloride solution to about 2.0 milligrams. I received 2 bottles of One and Only the next morning from Amazon, shook the bottles well, and then added both to the tank. I waited to the next morning and then checked the ammonia level, but there's been no change. What's going on?
It takes, we don't guarantee you're going to see a change in 24 hours, 12 hours or so. It takes a little bit of time. The bacteria have to adhere to surface and get to work. That's could be part of the issue. Also, didn't they say they added ammonia up to 2 milligrams per liter?
Yes.
Okay. When you're out there and you write that, that says to me, and it could be my interpretation, but you're only supposed to add 4 drops per gallon maximum. When somebody writes in and says, I added till I got a reading at 2, that generally means that you are adding a lot more than 4 drops. And basically, if you do that, you're overdosing the system with ammonia. It's what we don't want you to do. 4 drops, no more than 4 drops. You can do less than 4 drops, but don't sit there and dump ammonia into the aquarium water until you get that test kit to read 2.0. You've overdosed the system, basically. And that's why you're not getting the change. One reason, bacteria might take a little longer, but you've added too much ammonia.
Okay. Question number 10. I used your One and Only with the ammonia to start my cycle. It has been 8 days and I'm still getting readings of ammonia 0.25, nitrite 1, nitrate 15. I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong, but I did use your product before and didn't have this issue. Can you tell me what I should do? I used an 8-ounce bottle of One and Only and a little over a bottle of ammonia. I did not administer on day 6 because it was over 5. My tank is 100 gallons with a 40-gallon sump.
Well, I'm not sure there's anything wrong. I mean, the ammonia is down. They don't say what size bottle, so let's assume that they used, go ahead.
They used an 8-ounce bottle of the One and
Only. But how much ammonia? They said a bottle of ammonia. So we don't know what the initial concentration was. Let's assume that this person did follow the directions and got the right size bottle for that tank, 200 gallons of water. And that would be, and they dosed it to 2. So the ammonia started at 2. Now it's 0.25. The nitrite's 0.1. And your nitrate, what was it, 10 or 15? 15. This tank is cycling. There's nothing wrong here at all. I mean, folks, don't sit there and worry about that the ammonia is 0.25. With your test kits, that is 0. 0.1 on the nitrite, that is 0. Enjoy success because this is working. Assuming that you've added the ammonia, they don't say how many times, right? Just once? We don't know.
Just says that they didn't do it on day 6.
Yeah, day 6. So maybe they've done it twice. This tank is rocking and rolling as far as I'm concerned. Maybe now, if it's a freshwater tank, they could have, now the alkalinity's been consumed, the pH has dropped. You want to do water change, even with salt water. You're adding a lot of ammonia. I mean, the idea is to really get that bacteria population pumped. So that can consume a lot of alkalinity, drop your pH. That's why we recommend doing a water change before adding your fish. But at this point, I don't see anything wrong with this tank. It's well on its way of being cycled.
Yes, those are the best answers. I feel like we rarely get them.
Yeah.
Moving on, question number 11. Man, we are cruising through this list today. I understand your point about the risks of drip acclimation. I've got some questions. What if you use prime or something similar to detoxify the ammonia first before drip acclimating? And how should shrimp be acclimated?
No.
Would you like to expand on that?
Did you hear? No. Don't use chemicals. Prime or AquaCleanse are not for acclimating fish. You're just going to mess things up. Plus, you'd have to add so much that this fish are swimming around in chemicals rather than water. Okay, so don't try to control the ammonia, and don't believe all the hype of some places that will tell you that you add this and it made it non-toxic, even though that you can measure it and things like that. Use water. Nice, fresh, clean, fresh water or clean salt water, and be warned. Be warned. You're stressing your fish more than if you just put them in clean water and get them in the tank. And what was the second part, Hillary?
How should you acclimate shrimp?
Well, shrimp have their ammonia is toxic to them, and you definitely don't want to be adding chemicals with shrimp. So again, unless there's a huge difference in pH, salinity, or temperature, put them in the tank. It just get them out of that nasty shipping water and put them in the tank. Yep.
That seems easy enough.
And people, well, how do you know anything about shrimp? Well, I was in the Peace Corps shrimp hatchery years and years ago. I definitely know about shrimp. So get them out of the bad water, out of that bad shipping water, put them in good, clean water.
Okay. Question number 12 is a Reptile Systems question. If I have questions about the Reptile Systems products, or if I am trying to find replacement bulbs, where should I go to ask those and find those items?
So for you that don't know, we have a sister company, Reptile Systems, which sells a wide variety of reptile products, hence the name Reptile Systems. And then another one, ASF, Aquarium Systems France, that sells a lot of electrical and lighting products for your freshwater and marine aquariums.
And salt.
We talked about that. Really good salt. You can get info at reptilesystems.com, and you will get in touch. That will go to one of our resident reptile experts, and they will answer your question. And to find the products, you can go to Dr. Tim's Aquatics website, store.drtimsaquatics.com or Dr. Tim's Aquatics, and click on the link to the store. And there's a whole section there of Reptile Systems products and ASF products, including salt.
So if you are on store.drtimsaquatics.com, you're going to look under the categories. If you're on a mobile device, it might look slightly different. You probably will have to click that pull down menu, but if you're on a desktop, it should show up on the left-hand side. So just scroll down.
Where the bearded dragon is.
Yes. Okay, let's see. What question are we on? Question number 13. Does EcoBalance contain iron?
No. EcoBalance is bacteria. I mean, there could be a very, very super small trace amount of iron, but no. EcoBalance is bacteria. So, nope.
Okay. All right. Our next and final question of the podcast. Hi, I'm about 2 weeks into my cycle. Ammonia is at 0. Nitrites are still 1+, and no sign of decreasing. I have about 5 nitrate. Should I continue dosing ammonia or leave it be? Should I do a water change? Thanks for your help.
Do they say whether it's fresh water or marine?
They do not.
So the chances are that this is a freshwater aquarium and the pH has bottomed out, dropped, because they said they're 2 weeks into it. So more than likely, if they've been following the directions they've added the ammonia 2 or 3 times. The ammonia is gone, but there's a low amount of one nitrite, which isn't really toxic, but it's not going down, which leads me to believe that the pH has dropped, because that's what happens, and it drops faster in a freshwater tank versus a marine tank. And so at this point, I would recommend doing like a 50% water change. But anytime when you're doing a water change during the cycling, don't disturb the substrate, because that's where the one and only bacteria are. Don't change your filter pad unless you really, really, really have to do it. And that would only be if the filter pad were somehow so clogged up that the water wasn't flowing through it. But I think here, I know what I would do. I'd recommend a 30 to 50% water change, let the system run overnight, and then see where your nitrite is. You could add some more ammonia, and it'll probably quickly start progressing, and that nitrite will disappear. I just think you're at a low pH value in this tank right now.
Okay.
So, all right. That's a lot of good questions, and we'll be out traveling. I know there's Aquashella, another Reefapalooza pretty soon, and we'll be out there. And we'll always love people coming by. And if you perked up with reptiles, we're also doing some reptile shows. So a lot of different things. You can come out and see us.
Yes, exactly.
All right. Thanks for listening. This has been Dr. Tim and Hillary for another Dr. Tim's Aquatics podcast. Good fish keeping, everyone.